Hello, everybody, and welcome to Workshop Wednesday on a Thursday. Today, we're going to talk about continuing education, and it might be a little bit new because I'm a different face. Our fearless leader, Kathy Willick, is allowing me to handle this one today. So if I don't ever have another Workshop Wednesday, you know why, but hopefully we'll have some more opportunity to talk about this stuff. With Workshop Wednesday, before we begin, just want to remind you that, this is our monthly Fleet Commander series. These webinars are scheduled monthly on the third Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And then every once a quarter, we do a webinar like this where we talk about topics maybe a little bit outside of Fleet. We are always searching for your feedback because we'd love to identify topics that are worth discussing in these monthly webinars. And so at the end of this, there's going to be a QR code. Go ahead and snap that with your smartphone, and that'll give us more feedback from you on what you want to learn, whether it's product related, industry related, or something as simple as this. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. You are going to be muted during the webinar. I do have a few questions that I'll awkwardly and silently wait for you to respond to, but you don't have a microphone. So what I'd love for you to do is in the chat, when you respond and you want yourself to be known, if you can respond with your name and the organization you belong to, that would be fantastic. It also helps us after we do the webinar. If for some reason we missed a question, it allows us to get back to you. And then last but not least, with this webinar, because it is being recorded, it will be available for you about 1 to 2 business days and available on our YouTube channel. So with that, we're going to talk about continuing education. So I always ask myself, and most of this stuff is very, very personal to me, simply because of my background and the things that I like. But the question remains, why should we continue learning? And what's ironic is a lot of the people that we work with at Agile Fleet are actually part of educational systems, universities, So you might have the answer to this, but it's something that I always try to ask myself, ask my kids, ask my brothers and sisters, why should we continue to learn? So philosophically, I love Dr. Seuss. The more you read, the more things you shall know. The more that you learn, the more places you shall go. And I believe that to be incredibly true. I think knowledge is power. I may not be the smartest person, but continuing to learn and trying to grow is always something that we should all strive for. Henry Ford said that anyone who stops learning is old. At 20 or at 80, anyone who keeps learning stays young. So for a lot of people, we want to stay a little bit younger. Learning is a way to do it. It's a fountain of youth. So when I start thinking about learning, a lot of people have questions. The questions that they have is one, how do I find the time? And I'm not going to have the answers to all of these. It's going to be something that you're going to have to look internally and say, hey, where can I find the time? But what I'll be able to answer is, where do I start? And what if I don't have money to pay for courses? I think that's the biggest question for a lot of people that I talk to, myself included, when I wanted to learn things relevant to my career or relevant to just personal growth. And then lastly, what topics should I focus on? Again, I don't have the answer to that, but hopefully in our discussion today, you're going to get, you're going to have some things that come to you, and hopefully you have a notepad that you can write down, say, hey, now that I know this, I want to start learning about this. So these are going to be non-traditional classrooms that you can go to. And what's funny is in the beginning, we're going to talk about learning courses and classes, and a lot of our universities are actually listed on these platforms. So my first interaction with online classes, right, was through Coursera. It was actually founded by professors at Stanford University. And it's actually there's a lot of content and courses that are on there that are free. And they're by leading universities. You can see in this the small screenshot there that there's Michigan, Stanford, ASU, Penn, a lot of different universities are on here and they're offering free courses, really good courses. There are also options to pay for some of these courses and get certificates that you could use on LinkedIn later on. And then there's also ways for you to get degrees, right? So you can learn certifications. And then you could also, if you wanted to, earn an MBA or a continuing education here. What's great about this PowerPoint is I'm not going to go into the individual sites. I'll leave that up to you. But I do have the links to the individual sites. So as you say, hey, this looks like it might be the one for me, go ahead, click on this. It'll take you to the site and you'll get to learn all about Coursera. I do love how they've partnered with leading universities and leading companies. So you'll see inputs or classes or content from IBM. You'll see it from Stanford, or you'll see it from Google. You'll see it from AWS, Accenture. All of these different organizations out there came together with the universities to make really good courses that you can use to further develop, right? And some of the topics that you might want to further develop is they could be personal or they could be professional, right? So like for me personally, when I first started learning about Coursera, I was having some issues with some supply chain, right? And I wanted to learn a little bit more about supply chain management so I can have deeper conversations with the people around me to figure out how do we overcome these problems, right? And so I took these classes at Coursera and I learned a little bit about safety stock. I learned a little bit about some of the different distribution channels. And it really helped me in going and having this conversation with our executives from our company to learn a little bit, or to really solve some issues. Go to the next one here, Coursera. The next one is edX. So edX is a great platform. It's founded by Harvard and MIT. And it's very similar to the cost of what you see for Coursera, right? There's free courses that are there that you can sign up for. A lot of the times those enrolling are happening on a daily basis. You can get access to content. Sometimes you'll need to pay for some of the downloads if you want to do the downloads and assignments and then submit those assignments for certificates. But again, you can, if you want to, in getting those certificates and getting those degrees, you can pay for it, but a lot of the stuff is free. So one of the things for fleet professionals that maybe they do or they don't know, right? I really didn't see it coming, but you can go onto edX right now, sign up, and you can go search for electric vehicles. And in that process, right, I know a lot of us have a lot of different questions about the technology, about the different policies, the business behind it. So I actually went in today just to show you, you can go, you can select, and then you can also enroll. You'll see here that this is a completely free course, right? It's self-paced. It'll give you some context. There is a syllabus that you can look through, and you can enroll today for this course if it's something that you want to learn. But again, it doesn't always have to be something about something that we are doing in our jobs. It can be personal as well. The next platform that I've used, although it's been seldomly, just because of timing, right, is Udemy. So it was founded by these individuals, and there is free courses and content developed by experts in their field, right? So if you want to learn a little bit more about AI, there's ways that you can do that. And again, you can have a subscription to really get the courses and the certificates if you want to do that. That's completely up to you. And again, the links are going to be here. So if you want to go and search and figure out which one's the right one for you, you can go ahead and do it and explore. I wanted to throw this one in there simply because if you haven't heard of Khan Academy, it's a great learning resource. It was founded by Sal Khan, and it's geared more towards high schoolers, middle schoolers, grade schoolers. But for those of you, like I was learning about technology for the first time, and I wanted to learn a little bit about Python and HTML, SQL and JavaScript, it is a great free resource and opportunity for you to learn in a almost childlike environment. So it's very, very specific. It didn't assume that you knew anything. And it helped me as I started to talk to product people, about coding. Again, I'm not a professional in coding, but what are they looking for? What are some things that are specific to them? And like most of you out there, you might be parents, you might be grandparents. This is a great resource that maybe you don't want to use for yourself, but you have kids and they might need help, or you have grandchildren that might need help. And so I don't know if you can see it down here. It's not there. But you can see they have, partner courses through NASA, National History. My son, we're huge Disney freaks for some reason. I blame my wife. But my son has always been very intrigued by Pixar films, right? And Pixar actually partnered with Khan to do the video and graphics, how they go about their graphics, how they develop some of their technology. There's a couple of courses in here that even my son could take. Wildly fascinating. It may not be something you want to do, but again, this isn't just in professional advancement. It could also be about just hobbies, right? Or something where we want to relate a little bit more with the people around us. We start learning about these things and having conversations. So some other platforms that are out there, I don't have exposure to them, but I've heard there's a lot of good things for them. They're very similar to the three that I talked about with Coursera, Udemy, as well as edX. There's an organization called Allison that you can go and look at their courses. A lot of them are free. Simply Learn is a great platform as well, I've heard. And then there is Upgrad. So since I've just talked about these couple of platforms, I'd really like to hear, because I'm always looking to learn as well. I'd love to hear from the audience, what are some other platforms that they may use similar to this that help them learn? And again, you can answer in the chat. If you want to be known, say your name and the organization you're with. If you want to stay anonymous, you can stay anonymous and just give us some feedback there. So let's see here. YouTube, Karen, that's a fantastic one. One that I didn't even put in here, but that is fantastic. Again, what we try to do here is bringing people together and sharing ways to get better. So as you think of different things, different platforms that you use, feel free to enter in the chat. I'd be very interested. And again, these aren't the end all be alls for everything here. Another thing that I'd like to just point out, simply because I think a lot of organizations themselves use Salesforce. When you think about Salesforce, you don't think about anything maybe than a CRM or an ERP. But if your organization has access to Salesforce, and this actually goes for those other platforms as well, Coursera, edX, I would talk within your organization to see if you have a company subscription, right? Because you can subscribe to Coursera, edX at an individual basis, but a lot of companies, because they want you to continue your education, continue to learn and better yourself, they may have a company access or credentials to some of these platforms. Salesforce is one of those. If you have access to Salesforce, you should have access for your trailheads. It is great content to learn skills, best practices, not just on CRMs, but you can learn management skills and leadership skills. So again, when most people, when they hear, oh, you're working with Salesforce, they just think, oh, let's explore Salesforce. Let's learn how to use it. Let's get started with Salesforce. That's the beginning. Most of the time when you have experience to Trailhead, it's just doing your basic training for Salesforce. But there's all of these things like learn new skills, earn new certifications. At Agile Fleet, I work with Kathy on customer success, but I also do a lot in the strategic partnership space, right? There's classes and skills and courses on how to work with partners and how to develop strategies around that. The last is to grow your business, right? Not everything is going to be just for your career advancement. Maybe you do want to be an entrepreneur on the side and you have time to do that. You're going to do that on the weekends. You have a printing where you do t-shirts. How do I grow my business, right? You can start looking at some of this stuff to just better your overall knowledge of the things that you're interested in or the things that you're looking to do as you get older. Again, kind of just going back to some of the trailheads, right? It isn't always just a singular, hey, I want to learn about Salesforce. It can be, I want to be a better marketer, a better consultant, a better designer. I need to learn more about cybersecurity. And again, you might not need to learn about cybersecurity because it's your job, but it might be something that is going to help you in the conversations that you're having with your cybersecurity team or your IT team, right? A lot of the times when you're working with Agile Fleet, there's a lot of IT requirements that you may not know, right? And I don't even know. And so when I'm talking internally with some of our experts, sometimes I'll go and I'll look at these courses and I'll have some of these terms understood so that I can be better in my conversations and we can be more productive.
And Todd, not to interrupt, but we've got a couple in the chat who said they use Skillsoft, and then someone asked about LinkedIn Learning as well.
Yes, Skillsoft I didn't have on there. LinkedIn Learning, I did. I do have a little bit on it, simply because it's an added value to what you're doing on your. If you have a pro subscription to LinkedIn, LinkedIn Learning is fantastic. And again, it might be something that you have access to through your organization. With Salesforce, there's, again, it's called Trailhead because you get a lot of badges. What's great is these badges are actually becoming more wide known within all organizations, right? And so you can promote, if you want to throw this on your resume or you're talking to somebody, right? I'm a ranger. I have over 100 badges on Salesforce. Those things actually matter in what you're trying to do, and people do recognize them. So if you're looking for a promotion, right, or you're looking to go to your next adventure, these things are great to have under your belt so that you can promote yourself. So beat me to it, LinkedIn Learning. The only reason LinkedIn Learning's kind of last to this is because there is a subscription required. Usually it's around $65 per month. I think there's some that are a little bit less expensive. The content in there are free courses developed by experts in their field, and you can get certifications or certificates that you add to LinkedIn, which is great in promoting yourself. I personally use LinkedIn. I wasn't the best back in the day at Excel. And so I went through and I took 3 or 4 different courses on Excel. I'm still not a wizard at it, right? but it helped me learn how to do pivot tables. It helped me learn how to do tables in general, how to do lookups, how to do finds, how to use formulas. So this is a great way for you to learn different things, whether it's, I have a presentation and I want to look a little bit better in my presentation because it's to the board. What are some things that I can implement to help me, to help this presentation? So PowerPoint, Excel, Word, all of those things. There's tons of courses on that. All right. Like I said, kind of going back to what we said with Salesforce, it's the content is very robust, right? So whether you're an accountant or business analyst, right? I know a lot of the times we'll look at our business analysts and say, hey, can you run me these reports? And what I've noticed in taking some of these classes, I've gotten a lot better at what I would call prompting, right? Where I can ask them for more specific things because I know some of their language and I know some of the things that they're going to look for. Again, not perfect by any means. The same thing goes with a lot of the artificial intelligent things out there, whether it's Chat GTP or Copilot. Knowing how to prompt them will help you exponentially in gathering the data that you need to get or developing the resources you need to develop. So again, I think more than anything, a lot of this education helps you in your conversations. So I'm no wizard at this, but just different things that I use to find the time, because a lot of people are like, where do I find the time? You probably know a lot of this stuff. If you have a commute, I used to have an hour and 15-minute commute, right? And I would listen to audiobooks during that time. It was a great way for me to upskill while I was doing something mundane. I know a lot of people that will be on a treadmill, right? And they'll have a book that they're looking at and they just want to read or they're listening to a book. So when you're exercising, if that's one of your things, throw it on an audiobook. I've even done Coursera courses while at the gym on an elliptical, right? Those are things that you can do. Another thing is just working at the house, right? So if you're doing some yard work, I don't know why, but I love vacuuming, right? Makes everything clean and it's cool working with the machine that sucks up. But I constantly, while I'm vacuuming, I will listen to a book or a podcast or something like that. And then the last thing is this one I think is a great trade-off. Either you're going to learn something or you're going to fall asleep. No offense to people that put books and podcasts out there, but let's be honest, some of them are a little boring. So if you put them on while you sleep, you may remember some of the stuff. You may not remember any of it, but either way, my thought is you're killing two birds with one stone there. So that's the next thing I wanted to bring up is just podcasts in general. They are fantastic. Again, resources, usually free resources. I spend most of my time in Spotify, right? The cost for that is typically free, but you do have ads. The best experience for me has been with a paid prescription. It's about $11.99, $12 per month. And included in that, right, you do have access to all the different podcasts as well as some of the different audiobooks. So again, as you can see here, not only do you get this, but if you're in love with Justin Timberlake and NSYNC, you can get NSYNC. If you're in love with Tom Petty, you can get some, Tom Petty, Neil Diamond. So it's great not only for music, but also podcasts and audiobooks. So you can see here, you go in and you start searching for your audiobooks. I love the fact that most of these things that I'm talking about, they are not just stationary to your desktop. I think most of you are aware that you can download these on your smartphone or your iPad and take them with you. So if you go into a Spotify or if you go into another platform, Apple Podcasts, you can look for specific podcasts or audiobooks. I did productivity. I can't tell you how many times I've looked for productivity to better help me in the workplace. I think a lot of us in fleet, we have a lot of things to do, not a lot of resources to get them done, and not all the time to get them done. So how do we be better at productivity? And I've found some pretty amazing things. Shameless plug here for Kathy Wellick here. We actually, if you go into Spotify and you look for Harder Than It Looks, the podcast, and you go to episode, I believe it's 19, you can actually check out Kathy Wellick and Ross Ellenson and hear about women in fleet, as well as just parking in general and some of the problems that happen. And the cool thing is if when you get this presentation, there is the link here. So if you click on the link, it's going to open Spotify and you get to listen to Kathy there. There's also, other things. Our friends over at Ron Turley, they put out a fleet success show. There's a ton of different podcasts related to fleet. So I'd recommend going into Spotify or any of the other platforms and just looking for fleet, and you might find some resources there that can help you in what you're doing overall. So some other podcast platforms, right, is you got Apple's. You can go to Amazon Music, and there's some podcast platform there. Another one that I've heard people use is Podbean. People use that not only to listen, but if they want to create their own podcasts. And then the other one is Pocket Casts. So, all right. The last thing I'm going to go into is just audiobooks. These have been so beneficial to me in many different ways. And I think everybody on here who's had exposure to audiobooks, they're fantastic resources. It's not that I don't make a lot of time to read, right? And so audiobooks are great in getting between to jobs, doing different things, whether my kids on the weekends, they have a basketball tournament that I need to go to or soccer game, I can listen to audiobooks. They're fantastic. I spend most of my time in Audible. I know there's other platforms out there too, but what I wanted to do here is just give you some idea of my experiences, why it's been beneficial. And so Audible is what I use. You can purchase individual books, or you can go in and you can, with your credits, you can have a subscription that allows you 1 credit per month, and that credit can be used on any book, whether it costs $4.99 or $55.99. So you can create your own library as you get further into the months. And if you have a subscription, there are a lot of books as well that may be free, right? So again, podcast, audiobooks. Here's just a look of different things that you might need to look at, right? You might be a manager. How do I relate a little bit more with my employees? There's a big generational gap between me and my employees. How do I relate with them a little bit more, right? There's all of these different things that you can learn throughout these platforms, and that's what I encourage people to do. It doesn't always have to be. The other one that I talk to people about is like, let's say you have a kid and your kid's talking about the latest, coolest book that's out there, right? And for me, it was Harry Potter. I never read the Harry Potter series. I saw some of the movies, but I downloaded a number of the books and listened to them in Audible so that I could relate with my children and have conversations there, because obviously the movies and the books are a little bit different. So just think of different ways that it doesn't always have to be personal, or it doesn't always have to be professional. It can be personal as well. One hack that I learned, right, is if you get into a book, for some reason, I downloaded the 9/11. It was just a series, it was a series about 9/11 and all the things that went into it, all the different documentation. It was many, many hours. So this is a good hack if you do use Audible or you use any platform to go into the speed, and you can increase it a little bit. It still will be coherent, but you can get through books a little bit faster, especially if they're like this. But let's say you are maybe somebody, right, that you don't want to spend money. Great, I'm totally with you. I'm on board. There's something called Libby. Some people know about this, some people don't, right? And this actually gives you access to your local or your greater metropolitan area public libraries. So all you need is a library card. You either need to sign up for it or you need to physically go to that public library to get access here. And again, on your smartphone, I view content like ebooks, digital magazines or digital audiobooks and magazines. Again, if you are trying to better market yourself to go and get more employees, right? And you need to figure out, how do we make ourselves look better to possible hires? You can go and look at some different marketing or different psychology books. And again, just going back to some of the fiction, it doesn't always have to be, personal growth doesn't always have to be through the career, right? It can be something of maybe me and my significant other, right? We want to figure out how to budget for that next trip or start our own business. Or it can be, we just want to connect and we want to listen to the same book. Those are all things that you can do with Libby, with all of these platforms here. I do personally, where I use Libby the most is with magazines, right? So a lot of magazines require subscriptions, and they can get, $11 a year to $30 a year to $100 a year. This is really cool because if you need, Inc. magazine, or again, if you're working with, you're trying to do a research project with your grandchild and you don't know about, what they're talking about, there's magazines to National Geographic, Discovery. So the content is very robust. And so I would encourage you to use this platform as well if you have access to it. And then also for your kids, if your kids or the younger generation, they are looking to have access to free materials, this is a great place for it. So for me, I've asked myself, why do I learn? The reason I personally learn, I think this can be applicable to everybody. Your answers might be a little bit different, but for me, it's personal growth. Again, it's for me to just grow in the areas that I have interest in, as well as my career. It definitely helps me improve my relationship with my families and coworkers, right? So as I learn a little bit more, I have a brother-in-law. There's just not a lot to talk about, right? But I learned a little bit more about what he does. And so it opened some conversations, and obviously those conversations have then now they've spread out to other conversations, and I've gotten a chance to know my family members a little bit more. The same thing can go with your coworkers, especially interdepartmentally. A lot of the times we'll say, hey, I don't understand why the data analytics team can't just do this. I don't understand why it seems really easy for marketing to just do this, right? As you start to understand some of the barriers and the constraints and dependencies that they may have, it helps with not only having more empathy, but also maybe having deeper conversations so that you can think of these things before you go into those conversations. Accelerating productivity at work, right? Let's say you're going to go and you got to go get new budget, right? Sometimes you may want to go and look at different financial books or courses that they have online. It's going to clearly identify what a CFO or a comptroller is going to be looking at and looking for, right? So now when I go into that presentation, I know I need to hit across some of these bullet points So that way I might get, I can get approvals. And then the last is just career growth, right? I think we can speak it at nauseum. You may be perfectly happy with where you are today, and you want to broaden your horizons by learning more about what you do, because we're super happy at where we're at. That's still career growth if you want to accelerate and improve where you're at. And also, again, if you're looking to move up, these are great resources for you to learn a little bit more.
Todd, someone also said it helps retain cognitive functions as you get older.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. And that was actually something I was going to ask is, what are some reasons that you individually learn? I'd love to hear why, our attendees, why they learn, what motivates them to learn. Because I know I missed like 6 or 7 different things. Lost the chat for some reason.
Yeah, Julia said we often ask during interviews, what was the last book you read or course you attended for professional growth? And then we had another comment.
That's a great one.
Yeah. And then we had another, to provide more information to my clients.
Yeah, customer service. It's huge there too.
Someone else said topics of conversation at social occasions. So similar to what you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you might be just attending a charity event and you want to talk a little bit more about, different types of charities, right? And it's endless, the different, I guess, benefits from learning. And so again, like I said, I don't have all the answers. I just wanted to share, because I think we're all at a place in our lives where we want to learn, we want to grow, and maybe we don't want to spend a ton of money for it. Those of you that are blessed to work at universities, you may have access to, to education at a very inexpensive or a non-cost factor there. So if you do, I envy you and congratulations, because that is awesome. And then the other thing that I would ask, again, I'm going to go through some of the different things of Agile Fleet, but in hearing this, right, and just kind of, I think a lot of times when we listen, we start looking at our own problems. We start looking internally. What are some things that you might now throw on your bucket list, knowing that you have access to free courses or free books or audiobooks? And you don't have to answer that. If you want to, great. But I know some of that stuff is personal, especially if we're talking about personal growth or spirituality. But again, these are all things that you can improve and grow at. So just to take it back to Agile Fleet, right? Kathy and I are here to work with our customers and our clients to, I don't know how that happened, to understand your specific operations and learn how we can help with, all things fleet related, but also things that are Fleet Commander and how we can better your organization as well as your department. So these are our contact information, or our contact information. We show it every time. We want to make sure that you guys all know that you can contact us anytime about things fleet related or Fleet Commander related. And always love to show the team here. For those of you, hopefully there's a lot of you that are joining us today that have the capability of coming to command. This is our team. These are the people behind the scenes that make Fleet Commander what it is. And so we always like to showcase them. We hope that you will meet a lot of these people at command next week. And if you haven't had the opportunity, you can't go to command. We know that some budgets or you have to select the shows that you go to. Hopefully this gets on your 2025. We'll do some announcements, and Anna and her team will keep you posted on what we're doing for Command 2025. So just keep that in the back of your minds. As always, for additional learning specifically about Agile Fleet, you can go to our online resources, our white papers, our webinars. You can go to our blogs. We greatly appreciate you attending us on Workshop Wednesdays, especially when they're on Thursdays. We really appreciate that. And again, for those that are going to Command, we appreciate it, and we're looking forward to seeing you next week. Hopefully it's going to be a good time. All right. And then the other thing that, this kind of ties back in what we started about, we talked about in the beginning. I'd love to hear more. If you didn't have a chance to drop it in the chat, you could send us an email. Love to hear more about how you're learning, how you're growing. And we always are trying to grow, from each other. So we'd love for you, as in working with client success, to be a thought leader on what you're doing successfully, or what are the challenges that you have. Because a lot of the times when we band together as a fleet community or as a community, we get different ideas and different perspectives that allow us to overcome our challenges, or maybe even look at our challenges and say, hey, we're just focused on the wrong things here. So please reach out to us if you got great stories. We'd love to hear it. Again, if you need anything, you can contact Kathy and myself. Our CS email address. You can also contact support. They're fantastic when it comes to this. And then our social content. So I really appreciate everybody joining today. We all do. If you have anything that you want to learn about, whether it's Fleet Commander related or for our next kind of one-off that we have for our Workshop Wednesday next quarter, let us know. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you joining. Hope to see you next week. If not, have a fantastic weekend.